Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Sheasley. I am a psychotherapist and an executive coach. So I'm founder of the EPC Leadership Executive Performance Coaching. I work with CEOs, founders, leadership teams on the psychology of performance. So how to stay clear, steady, effective under pressure, essentially without burning out the people around you or even yourself. So today, I think we're going to talk about something interesting that most of us can relate to, something that shows up a lot in high performers: unrelenting standards. So I want to say this carefully. Unrelenting standards can look like drive, discipline, and even excellence, but internally it often feels like you're never done, you're never satisfied, and you can't slow down without a sense of guilt. Mistakes take a toll, they feel expensive, and even wins don't land, and if they do, not for long. So the question isn't, should you have high standards? The real question is, are your standards guiding you, or are they essentially grinding you? So before you label it as ambition, I want you to ask yourself, are my standards making me better or making me rigid? Because high standards are obviously healthy when they create clarity and quality. They become unrelenting when they create chronic pressure and there's an emotional cost. So there's usually a quick tell, and that is if your nervous system treats good as failure, essentially, you're not chasing excellence, you're chasing relief. And so we want to define unrelenting standards clearly. So here's a simple definition that I think works. So high standards, right, is defined by I care about quality and I can be flexible while I build it. The difference, unrelenting standards, is I must perform, produce, or prove, and it still won't be enough. See, unrelenting standards isn't just about work output. It's about how you specifically relate to yourself while you are working. And so for many people, unrelenting standards started as a rational solution. For many of us, it helped us get approval, avoid criticism, earn safety and acknowledgement through performance, staying in control, outwork certainty. So it makes sense that part of you trusts it. But what used to be adaptive can become costly. And so you don't just have standards. Sometimes the standards have you. So what are some signs that you can be on the lookout to make sure that unrelenting standards isn't a problem for you? So 5 patterns to watch for is 1, there's moving goalposts. So you accomplish something and your brain immediately says, this isn't good enough, this isn't enough. 2, there's chronic urgency. Everything feels like it has to happen now, even when it doesn't. Inability to finish. So you polish, you refine, you tweak and improve past the point of usefulness. Irritability and control. So when pressure is high inside, you get sharper outside. So especially with people who aren't keeping up. And then obviously rest is interpreted and felt as guilt. You can't rest physically, but mentally you're still on and still measuring and still feeling behind. So that's not excellence, that's a pressure system. And so there's consequences to unrelenting standards, especially what it does to relationships and teams, and why this actually matters to others. So this is important because people do better with clarity, purpose, and consistency. But unrelenting standards often creates the opposite for the people around you. Teams will often experience this sense of unrelenting standard through shifting expectations or even perfectionism disguised as this high bar. Praise that usually feels conditional. There's a fear of mistakes and the sense of that we're never winning or actually getting ahead. And so if you don't say it out loud, the emotional message can become nothing is ever enough here. And that's how high standards accidentally turn into a culture of anxiety. So if you're leading others, ask this before you push. What does excellent mean here specifically? Because vague excellence becomes endless excellence. And in real leadership, excellence should look like something that's defined and measurable, something that's prioritized and achievable within constraints. So otherwise, the standard becomes a moving target and people are going to become disengaged. So we want to shift from perfectionism to precision. So here's the reframe that helps high performers the most. Perfection says no mistakes, no gaps, no criticism. Precision says, what is the highest leverage quality that actually matters? So what outcome are we optimizing for here? What does done actually look like? And what is the minimum effect dose of quality here? So really, what's the cost of overbuilding this? Because precision keeps excellence and it removes punishment. So we want to learn how to build what I call this earned satisfaction. So wins actually land and they are meaningful. Because a huge issue with unrelenting standards is that success doesn't register. So you have to practice a leadership skill many performers have actually skipped, which is earned satisfaction. Kind of meaning like we did a thing, it mattered, it's complete enough, and now we can move on. A line you can use with yourself or your team is, this is a legitimate win. Capture it, learn from it, and move forward. Because if you never let wins land, the motivation will eventually collapse. And so unrelenting standards thrives in vague time and endless availability. So using constraints purposefully, decision deadlines, stop times, quote, ship it movements, no end passes after a certain point, and clear ownership so you don't absorb everything. Excellence needs structure, otherwise it's going to become a compulsion. So again, the core distinction here is that high standards are about quality, but unrelenting standards are about worth. So high standards are going to help you lead, and unrelenting standards are going to quietly turn life into a performance review. And the goal isn't to lower your bar, obviously. The goal is to remove the fear and self-punishment that can often come with unrelenting standards so that your bar becomes sustainable. So before we close, I offer you 3 questions. 1, where do I move the goalpost instead of letting a win land? The second is, where am I optimizing for perfection when precision would work better? And 3, if I reduced self-pressure by, let's say, 20 to 30%, would my performance in relationships improve? So if this resonates with you, especially for my high performers and leaders out there, this is the exact kind of work that I focus on, keeping excellence while building a healthier internal system that makes success sustainable. And so for more on performance psychology and my proprietary inner architecture, strategic alignment, and adaptive leadership, you can find more videos here on YouTube and my content on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.